Train the muscles, not the joints. So today I'm going to be training some shoulders, triceps, and some legs. But I want to show you how to get the dumbbells up when you're doing a shoulder press, okay? Because some people have trouble with this. So basically what I do is I start with the dumbbells on my knees, or close to, like lower down on the thighs. And then what I do is I lean back and I kick one leg up by using my calf, right? I'm actually kicking off on my calf. I'm using my foot to lift the weight. And then I keep it in, and then dumbbells here, one at a time, and then up. Now you can do this with heavier weight too. It just takes a little bit of skill and practice. But basically all you do is lean back, kick it up, and then you have the dumbbell in close. Dumbbell in close, dumbbell in close, and then up. So welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and today I'm going to be doing some shoulders, triceps, and legs like I said before in the beginning there, and I hope that tip helps you out a little bit just so you can get those dumbbells up when you're doing shoulder press. One thing I do like about a barbell shoulder press, a seated barbell shoulder press, is that you can just kind of set yourself in the rack and you don't have to worry about wasting the energy on getting the dumbbells up. But the thing is that it's nice to do some heavy dumbbells from time to time, and I noticed that a lot of people, they just don't really understand how to do the technique because they just haven't had it shown to them or anything. So hopefully that stuff helps you out. So let me know how that helps you guys if you have been trouble getting the dumbbells up for shoulder press. Now, second of all, I want to talk a little bit about when to go heavy. Guy in the background there asked me how my training's going. Well, how does it look like it's going? How does it look like it's going? Hey, that's what I want to say. So I've had lots of people ask me about sets, reps, programs, you know, when they should change, when they shouldn't change, you know, all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, I always say that people are a little bit too left-brained when it comes to this stuff, but it does help to start with the structure, okay? So it does help, and I'm glad you guys tune in and ask me these questions because there is going to be a different answer for each one of you, but hopefully I'll be able to find that sweet spot where it caters to as many people as possible, you know, the majority anyway. So when to go heavy, okay, here's a couple things to watch out for. If you walk into the gym and the area that you are going to train is tight or sore, like really tight or sore, I would definitely recommend not going super heavy that day, okay? I would recommend sticking to rep ranges of at least 10 or above. Sometimes when I'm sore or a little bit tight, I don't train the muscle group altogether, or I will do sets of 20 reps, 25 reps, or 15 reps, something that's a little bit lower intensity. So it gives me a little bit of latitude just in case things aren't feeling right. How does it look like my training's going? I changed the angle just for pure intimidation factor. Are you intimidated? Are you intimidated? Probably not, but here we go. Now the next rule is going to be a little obvious. If you have joint pain, like you're getting some sort of inflammation or some sort of chronic sort of pain in any of the joints or in the lower back or something like that, if you have some sort of chronic pain going on and before you even step into the gym, you're already in pain, that's definitely not a day to go heavy, okay? That's definitely not a day to go heavy. That's locking out. Not necessary. Now, the third instance where you should not go heavy is when you are uncoordinated with a certain exercise. Now, with free weights, of course, this is where it really applies because with machines, you're already kind of coordinated because the machine is already, you know, aligned for you. It's already balancing the weight. Of course, though, because it does restrict your movement, sometimes it's not good to actually do heavy for the first couple times until you're used to the machine, because I've seen some people injure themselves on machines just assuming that it's safer. I've seen guys herniate discs on even leg press machines, okay? So, you know, so it doesn't exonerate you from being careful when you use a machine, just so you know. So let's get back to free weights. So whenever you are feeling uncoordinated, or say you're having trouble finding the groove in a certain exercise, such as squat, deadlift, bench press, whatever it might be, if you're feeling off as far as balance goes, or maybe you're on a new piece of equipment, it doesn't feel quite right, I would not recommend doing a super heavy set that day until the coordination returns, until you find that mind-muscle connection, which is one of the reasons why I find more frequent training is a little bit safer, because you tend to really refine your groove. You know, that's why I really believe in a little bit higher frequency training, because you're always working on that coordination. And because the coordination is more refined, it does inherently make some of the exercises a little bit safer. Not to mention, because you're training the body part a little bit more frequently, you may not feel the need to go heavy all the time because your muscles are always being stimulated with the lighter weight, right? Now, I guess you're probably asking yourself, okay, that's great, Jason. Okay, I know when not to go heavy, but how often should I go heavy? How often? Well, it's really up to you based on your program, but what I would do is pick a day when you feel right, when you've met all these parameters that I just talked about, you go heavy, and then from there, you will notice that your muscles will be tight or sore, or an area will be tight in some way, from stimulating those areas, those fast switch fibers. And then from there, when you work out next time, if you're still a little bit tight, then do a lighter day. Do a little bit of an easier day, do a little bit of a lighter day. Now, when you start to feel like your muscles are fully recovered and pumped and full again, then you can do a heavy day again. Now, for some people, this might be every week they can go heavy, or once every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But one of the sure signs that you're doing it too often is that your joints are starting to hurt and that you're not actually recovering. You're actually getting mildly overtrained, or your strength is definitely plummeting. Okay, if your strength's plummeting, then you may be going heavy a little bit too often. Now, another recommendation I would make is to keep the heavyweight days mostly on compound movements and stick with lighter rep ranges on the isolations. As a general rule, I find this is actually pretty good to follow, because with isolation movements, there is not as many places for the stress to go in case there is a problem, right? So say you're doing bench presses. If you have a slight pec problem or a shoulder problem, perhaps, in the middle of your rep and you feel some sort of tweak, you can actually transfer that stress to the tricep instead of the shoulder or instead of the pec or something like that. So there are more places for the stress to go in case something happens, right? But in the case of isolation movements, you don't necessarily have another place for that stress to go if there's a problem. So I do recommend you stick to a little bit of a higher rep range with the isolation movements, okay? So conserve your heavy days for compound movements. When you're going to do a heavy day, just do the heavy stuff on compounds, but I would never recommend going below 10 reps on isolation movements. I find that it just causes a little bit too much stress in the joints as a whole. Now, you can experiment with this on your own, but if you just want my 2 cents, that's my 2 cents on that subject, and that's the way I've found it to be for me. Okay, so you try it out, see what happens, but if you are noticing a lot of elbow pain or a lot of problems in the joints, if you're going heavy on your isolations, this might be actually what's causing the problem. So you're probably asking yourself, what is the general rule regarding bodybuilding and lifting heavy weights? Like, how often should you lift the heavy weights, such as in the 5 to 6 rep range? Now, I'm writing up a program right now where I do specify a person to do a couple days of heavy weights in 1 week. But usually what I tend to do is recommend once a week or once every 2 weeks to go in that rep range for each body part tops. You don't need to do every day of 5-6 reps. That's overkill. So I'd say another way to look at it is 30% of the time you do around 6-7 rep range, but the other 70% you're doing anywhere from 10 reps to 20-25 reps. And it is important to point out that that program that I wrote was a 2-week program, so there were 2 days that were super heavy in one of the weeks, but then the next week is super light, or not light, but intense with hypertrophy type of rep ranges. The thing is, you have to go on how you feel mostly, okay? Because sometimes I've went through periods of time where I could train heavy 3 or 4 days out of the week, and then a few days a little bit lighter, and it just seemed like my body was responding to it. There was no joint pain, everything felt good. So yeah, if you're one of those people that can go heavy and it just feels good, like nothing seems to be tweaking, there's no problem, you seem to be recovering, then you might be one of those people that can go heavier a little bit more often. It just depends on your makeup, your genetics, and what is going on in your system at the time, and what's also going on in your diet, your stress levels. And I talk about this. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. So respond. That's the most important thing. Respond to what is happening in your body. Respond to what is happening in that moment, and therefore you can make the adjustment. So if you're training heavy and you feel really great doing it, then stick with that a few days and then go light. It's almost like use those light days to recover from the heavy days and then go right back to heavyweight again. Because I know some of you are more powerlifting oriented, or some of you want to just gain strength, and lifting those heavy weights repeatedly might be a way that you want to do this. The other thing is that a way to continue to lift heavy more often and not worry about burnout is using the powerlifting method, which is not hitting failure when you get into the heavier rep ranges. You basically are very conservative because you want to make sure that your coordination is perfect and that it has the least amount of stress on the joints, because that coordination really helps protect the joints. So once you start to wobble, almost go into a speed wobble, you're trying to strain on something and then you lose your balance a little bit, well, that actually puts a lot more stress on the tendons and the joints than having perfect form, perfect stability, or the perfect growth groove, as the powerlifters would say. So another way that you could continue to lift a little bit heavier more often, if you feel that that's what your body responds to, is don't hit failure quite as often with those heavier weights. And again, I still believe in peppering in some light days here and there to help you recover, because by pumping blood in there, you'll really recover faster from those heavy workouts as well. Now, one last thing I want to talk about when it comes down to heavy workouts is that you may notice that certain body parts seem to be able to recover faster from those heavy workouts than others. And usually the correlation is between how many joints are affected, which also means when your lower back is involved in something, you may notice that you will not be able to get away with as many heavy workouts with exercises that contain the lower back, as opposed to ones that do not, right? Because the lower back has a lot of joints in it. There are a couple of ways to deal with this. So if you want to continue and do a heavy workout, so you have to train legs or something like that, but you know your lower back feels a little tight, everything feels a little off, you can just take the lower back out of the movement altogether by doing something like leg presses, or doing one-legged squats with dumbbells, or walking lunges or something like that. So the lower back isn't quite as active, and therefore you can still stay heavy and do a heavy workout. Or what you can do is you can rep out with the specified exercise instead of feeling the need to go heavy, right? This is all based on listening to your body. You just listen to your body. So as you can see, I've chosen to do high reps and use a machine today because my hamstrings were tight and I wanted to just rep out and just get a good stretch and get a good pump, right? So I use a lot of these workouts as a recovery type workouts. I use a lot of my workouts to recover from one workout in order to push to the next, and I always go on a day-to-day basis on how I feel, whether I push heavy or not. So heavy weight is necessary. It is necessary to push yourself, but the thing is you really have to go on your own individual needs on this, because not everybody responds the same way. And some people, if they start doing 5 rep ranges all the time or 6 rep ranges too often, they just start breaking apart. It's almost like too much stress on the muscle and the joints, and they don't actually get bigger from it. If anything, they get smaller because their body just cannot heal properly in the joints. Okay, so you have to really go on your own individual needs on this. If you do start lifting heavy, try lifting conservatively. Just do a heavy lift for each body part once every 2 weeks or once a week, and then see how you feel and use the other days to rep out. And I think that's a great place to start. That's one thing I like about using a machine. Once you get used to it, then you can really use it to pump blood into that area. You can really push to absolute failure. And a lot of times I pansy out a little bit, especially when I'm doing the high reps, because I'm getting such a burn in there. I'm sure that I have a few more reps in me. I know a lot of you have been there probably, where you're pushing hard on leg press, but your legs probably do have a few more, but they're almost, well, they're on fire basically. And when your legs are on fire, it's just really hard to feel good about pushing for another rep. But hey, the deeper you can push into that, the better when it comes down to getting results, as long as you can safely do so. So that's the nice part about machines sometimes. And the great part about that whole rep thing is that you're pumping blood in there. You're really helping recover for the next workout from those reps. So I hope this video gives you a better understanding of when to use heavy weight and when not to use heavy weight, and perhaps how to adjust it in your own training program. So thanks a lot for watching, and if you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com and take care for now.
I gotta be huger than I am. Huger than I am. Be even huger than you are. That's a new infomercial. Be even huger than you are. And share my stuff.